This infrastructure domain session as part of the buildingSMART International Standard Summit here in Valencia 2024. Thank you for joining us today. My name is John Proctor and I will be your moderator. Details of today's session are on the screen. We will be hearing from a number of the infrastructure domain steering committee members, starting with the chair, Tina Perchula. We will then hear from Jim Plume and Marc Goldman, and we also have Haijiang from Cardiff University with us today. So we have a full and varied agenda for the first session. It's due to last for 90 minutes and we will have time for questions at the end. The session is being recorded and will be made available in the replay section of the event as soon as possible. Before I hand over to the speakers, I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that we have a hybrid event today. For online attendees, your microphones will remain muted for the duration of the session. If you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please use the chat box and I will prompt you as we go through the session. For people here in the room, please keep background noise to a minimum. And if you wish to make a comment or ask a question, please raise your hand and we'll use this microphone that I'm speaking into now. I'm also going to bring to your attention the fact that buildingSMART is committed to ensuring that all standards are freely available and that participation in the development of standards is unrestricted and the process for their adoption is transparent, and that standards that are developed do not favour any particular provider but are open, non-binding and accessible to all. Please take note of our antitrust code of conduct showing on the screen now. With that, I'm going to pass over to Tina, and Tina will introduce the session. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and welcome to the Infradomain first session in Valencia Summit. I'm happy to see that the room is full and some new faces as well. And I have the voice command today, so John, please, you can take the next slide. So just shortly in the beginning, this has been the slide that we have been presented in the summit quite often, but it's good to remind that we actually create our mission and scope already back in 2016. And it has been always to combine, enhance and develop open standards for intelligent data, which enable process and data integration for infrastructure. And it's also through the life cycle. Since the beginning, the kind of linking BIM and GIS has been very close to the infrastructure domain, of course, because a lot of data is coming through GIS format, for example, and that's the reason that we have today Marc presenting the GIS update, for example. So there's a lot of activities around the BIM and GIS as well. Here you can see the structure of the infrastructure domain. So we have the steering committee. I'm the chair of the infra domain, and then we have the technical leader, which is Bill Jackson. The deputy chair for the infra domain is Jim Plume, and then we do have also the infra domain project steering committee, which is led by Marek Suchocki. We have the members in the steering committee represented quite many different areas of industry. We do have the consultants, we do have the contractors, we do have the client organizations, we do have the research bodies. So I think that the conversation that we have in the steering committee is quite widely kind of representing for each sector of this built environment. We do have already done a lot of projects in the past, so the orange ones are the ones that we have finalized, and the tunnel is still running, and we do have one session for the IC tunnel project in this summit as well. Maybe as next steps, we need to think, because as you see, quite many of the projects has finalized. So think maybe through the roadmap about the next live project in the infra domain, because currently we have only one running project. And maybe that's the where we need the help from the members of you all, so or members of the infra domain, which is you all, because we cannot do this by ourselves as a steering committee, so it's input coming from the industry. And then I wanted to take a short history view, because this has been done for many, many years. So we start with the pre-1, the alignment in the beginning, and then we did the IC overall architecture technical report, and then we ended up for common schema project, and then this domain-specific project in the beginning. And it has been a long journey. And then IC 4.3 changed standards in 2021 from the buildingSMART perspective. But then it took quite many years when we got the IFC infra extension to be part of the ISO standard. Next slide. So here you can see the timeline how this all was built together. And maybe some of you have seen these slides many times before, but still kind of we started already like 10 years ago, and there is many faces in this room that has been part of this journey for 10 last year. So it has not been an easy journey always, and when we started 10 years ago, we didn't have the kind of tools that are available nowadays, like VSDB. Maybe the use case management system was something that was in the making, or it wasn't in the level back then when we started. And now, for example, the presentations of yesterday were very much kind of highlighted that how different infrastructure organization wants to implement IFC 4.3 in their everyday actions and also through the life cycle. So very many infra owners are now seeking the possibilities to actually exchange the data from the project phase to the asset management phase. And IFC and these maybe open standards plays very important role in order to achieve that goal, to how to make the data available through the life cycle so that the data is rich, you have the right attributes, the information there, and also make the data maybe storages or databases in the way that data can be is usable for many different users. And actually, I want to emphasize the fact that this is the first summit that we do have the IFC 4.3 as part of the ISO standard. So it was announced in the beginning of January, and I think that this is a great success for all of us. So we give an applause for this. And it makes me very proud to stand here because I show you the long history of creating this. So this has been a huge outcome for the last 10 years, and it has been the vision for us since the beginning. But the journey has been long. It has been taking much longer than we first thought. But now we are here, and now we can start to think how to implement this into the real project, into the life cycle, and through the whole maybe chocolate chain of the infrastructure domain. And of course, this needs to be done with the other domains. So the railway domain is part of this, and there is also some elements that are important to airport as well. Maybe the electricity domain is kind of using some of these elements as well. So now I think that we need to maybe combine the forces and see what the elements are the kind of that are still common to everybody, because there might be signs under the railway domain or rail extensions that could be used in the road as well. So kind of look closely to maybe the next steps of using ISC 4.3.
Yes, and then there is the kind of the focus areas that that we as infra domain steering committee has been concentrating between these two summits. So the Lillestrøm summit in autumn and now this Valencia summit. So it's the main focus area is the implementation of the roadmap, because the roadmap is now, this works, yeah. The roadmap is now ready. It was published in the autumn, and we have worked quite actively to make this implementation of the roadmap possible. And Jim will tell more about the implementation of the roadmap, and we will have the separate session for the working group that has been established based on the activities we noticed when we did the activities that were important while we collect the input from the industry. And we are also close collaboration with the other domains, because there is a lot of ongoing initiatives inside the BSI. So this is definitely important across domain work that we need to improve and do all the time. Then the BIM and GIS was mentioned. Marc is here to tell more about that. And then this extension for infrastructure, of course, like the implementation part. And of course, the liaison updates from the other standardization working groups like CEN GC442 working group number 6, which is very much related to the infrastructure implementation and some of the questions related to the long time kind of information management or long term. And then how to move forward. There has been already many presentations around some of the topics. There is the strategic roadmap and the technical roadmap for BSI. We need to make sure that we are aligned with those roadmaps. Then the use case management, it has been mentioned many times. I think that it plays a crucial role for the infra domain as well, because I mentioned that back then when we created these standards or start to create the extension for the previous IFC, we didn't have that good use case management system that it is nowadays. And this could be a good opportunity for us to create use cases maybe from the client perspective, and then harmonize the one that can be harmonized cross-country or cross-national, different nationalities to be as a use cases in international level. And then there is this buildingSMART data dictionary, of course, one crucial element as well, because it's a very good tool to actually put, if you think about the ISO 19650, someone needs to put the requirement information, delivery requirements to the industry, and then it's related to the IDS and IDM, and somehow VSDD is very good way to share those requirements as machine readable format for the maybe the service provider. And then, of course, the IFC validation service is something that needs to be taken into the consideration as well, because there is a lot of new possibilities around nowadays. So kind of when you create a roadmap, the one thing that needs to take account is also always to update and review the roadmap regularly. So all these topics are something that needs to be taken into the consideration when we look further for the future. And then it's the life cycle question. So how to move from the project information to asset information. And ISO 19650 has been mentioned many times, but it plays an important role actually to make this transition possible. It's not only about the IFC, because a lot of data is coming still through the documents. So kind of think project information model. The information model is not only this kind of machine readable IFC files. It could be the geometrical information, it could be the alphanumerical information, it could be the documentation. And you need to be able to recognize all type of information that you get from the project, how to move those to the kind of to serve best for the next phase of the infra. And then it's the asset register and databases. They play also important role, because if you exchange the information through the IFC, normally those databases is built up a bit different, maybe rules than the IFC files. And then you need to think through how to extract the information from the models that it serves best to the databases, for example, in the public client sector. And then, of course, the question also IFC as an archive format. So there has been a a lot of work done through the regulatory route. So maybe we need to look close to that work as well, because now in the building permit processes, this has been kind of checked through the process, at least for the building perspective, and we need to do the same with the infra as well. Maybe I can now switch the slides by myself. Yeah, and then maybe the question how to move forward is also asking the question that if it's the use case management I mentioned, should we then create more infrastructure domain use cases of common kind of use cases, because we haven't maybe utilized the possibilities of the use case management system in the way that it could be utilized now because it wasn't possible in the past. Then the same question for the BSDD, that should we create, for example, common property sets for common elements, if that's possible. Airport Room has a good example yesterday that they have done it. So maybe we could do it already as an infra domain. Then the ideas, should we create some common ideas based on those use cases that we defined that are kind of common for every, for example, client organization, because that's possible nowadays as well. And then it's the validation service that when we have these IFC files, maybe we could create a common rules that what should be validated and how. The questions to the life cycle is always ISO 19650 in the beginning, and I would like to highlight also this IFC as an archive format, that there is ongoing initiatives in SEN, this long-term information management, and of course this is something that we need to collaborate, because we don't need to do everything by ourselves. There is a lot of people outside the BSI community also thinking through these questions. So how to engage with them in the best possible way, so we don't need to invent the wheel by ourselves. And this all links nicely to the roadmap, which Sim will tell more about, that what will be the next working groups that we have been now established and maybe piloting how this should go. Because 10 years back, when we didn't have the active project, we did have the active working groups. And now the history repeats itself. We don't have that many active projects, but now we need to have the active working groups in order to have the active project in the end. So kind of we are in the situation that there is a lot of good initiatives around, and now we need to rethink that how to build up those initiatives to be the BSI project in the future. That's our goal. But of course, it's up to the working groups to decide. Outcome could be also the technical report, for example. It doesn't need to be the extension for the IFC, so it's really up to the nature of the working group. And then there is very many different levels. So kind of understanding in which level we are playing. We are here definitely playing in the international level. But then, of course, there is a lot of representatives from the national organization. And it's always the question how you implement these international standards to the national level. And then it's the question about the organization, that how you implement then these standards into the organization level. And the organization might have different requirements, for example, for different property sets based on the needs coming through the asset managers, for example. And then it all ends up back to the project level. So projects could have their own BIM execution plans, but it's not maybe a good way to have very many different type of BIM execution plan if they are not based on the international standards, because then we end up kind of this lonely BIM situation, not an open BIM situation. So we need to figure out how these all levels place together. And then one thing that the reason we are here today is this knowledge sharing and lesson learned. So we really want to have the best practices, and the last session in this summit will be kind of this early adopter implementation for IFC 4.3. So what we can learn from the others and how to make sure that we don't do the same mistake twice, because that's the best way to move forward. And then just a short update about our infra domain agenda in the summit. So this is the opening session. And then in the evening or in the afternoon, the last session, so the infra-domain session number 2 will be about these working groups. So then we want to show that how we want to make the activities recognized through the roadmap work into the live, and we really need help from you, because actually this kind of building smart society or environment is the one that actually will implement these in their own country or own organization. And then tomorrow we have, of course, the one session for the tunnel, because it's the currently running project. And then the last session is this lesson learned and knowledge sharing about the early trials of IFC 4.3. So I welcome you all to join to these sessions. And this was my last slide. So thank you for your attention. Gracias. And I invite Jim to the stage. Or if you have any questions now, we can have a few questions maybe.
Any questions anyone wants to raise, or comments anyone wants to raise with Tina before we pass over to Jim? Yeah, got Nick at the back. You can use that one, I think, Tina.
Yes.
Thank you. I'd just like to ask if the roadmap for the infrastructure room can include looking at sustainability and the work of the sustainability group, and trialing the IGSs that we're announcing tomorrow, and equally whether regulation and compliance checking, engineering checking, construction process checking, health and safety and so on, might be a suitable area for the group to tackle, and the regulatory world would be happy to work with you on that. So it's just an offer.
Yeah,
thank you.
And we accept the offer. Thank you, because we definitely need help. But this is well, I might need to use the mic. But this is definitely the area that we recognized already through the roadmap work, that there is the kind of already existing groups inside BSI community, like the sustainability. It was one topic in our roadmap as well. So how to make sure that we are part of that group and then bring kind of our knowledge about from the infra domain to the work. So very much looking for the collaboration in the future. I don't know how to do it in the best possible way, but we are open to any good plans.
That's great. Thank you, Tina. We're going to pass to Jim.
Okay, so that's me, and I'm going to talk about the work we've been doing developing the roadmap. Is that one? Okay, I'm going to have to sit because I can't see the screen otherwise. Okay, so this has been a long process, and I hadn't quite realised how long it is, because we started back in 2021 to develop our roadmap. And we did it by having a number of chapter workshops, which were voluntary activities, in the sense that the chapters took the initiative to organise the workshops, and we supported them in that process. And essentially what we did was collect all the inputs that came from those workshop activities. So this is, you can see them there running through to March 2023, where we had a workshop in Washington, DC. So I was invited to go over there and participate, which I was very pleased to do. And so I'm highlighting that here only because that was our final workshop, and the outputs from that workshop were then merged with the outputs that had come previously from the earlier workshops. I put you might be able to read this slide. The screen's rather small even for this room, but and you're not meant to read it. You can read it later if you're really keen, but it's just to illustrate how we did it. So for each of the workshops generated on the left-hand side there, a whole set of ideas and inputs, and then they were filtered or organized into a consistent sort of structure under headings. And then out of each workshop, the outputs from the right-hand side of each workshop were then integrated into a a roadmap report, and ended up looking like this. So this is our roadmap as a diagram on one page, and it illustrates. Can I stand up and point to it?
Yeah, you can. Yep.
Without upsetting anyone. You can see here, I'm going to come over here to annoy John. There were three kinds of activities that came out of it. Those that came out of the chapter workshops as suggested activities, and they're highlighted in yellow, pale yellow. Then there were suggested what we judged to be cross-domain activities, and so we put those on here in this pink, red, whatever. And then there were also other activities that are really the responsibility of the steering committee to initiate. So they're kind of things that we have to think about and we have to deliver as a steering committee, but don't affect everybody. The bands through here were categorizing or grouping each of the activities under various topics, and so you can see up there industry training, testing and piloting, info extension projects, use cases, ontologies, white papers, technical development or support of technical development, liaisons, and community outreach. And the idea was that the thickness of the bands going through time is some kind of indication of how we see the weight of each of those activities at different times. And so this is really just a starting point for our roadmap, because none of these activities, except perhaps the blue ones that we have to deliver, none of these activities will happen unless our community steps up and starts to participate and help us lead them. We're happy to initiate some of them where appropriate, but also looking for others to come in and say, yeah, I think that's really important. I want to be a part of that. And so this is out there, and you can look at this. You can see things like ISC and geospatial infrastructure, or overview of infrastructure project processes, role of infra BIM, BSDD, AOH, UCM. They're all in there. And these are ideas. It actually, one of the things, this took 2 years to produce. So at the end of the day, you look at the ideas, and you could have said, well, you could have thought of that 2 years ago on your own. But it's important for us to have gone out to the community and collected all that input. There was a voting process, there was a prioritisation process, and this is what fell out at the bottom. And that's important to understand. I'll go back here. So we produced a report, which you can see there. Sorry, I can't read this. I wanted to highlight the fact that the report has got 2 things in it. It has a whole section that describes the process of developing the roadmap. So if you really want to understand how we did it, read that. And then at the end, it has all of the activities described in a bit of detail. That was the ideas or the explanation of those ideas that came out of the process. And so that document is in the box. You can access it, you can read it, and you can come back and talk to us about it. It's important to recognise that these activities, I just said, this is me repeating myself, these activities can only happen if you, the community, international community, actually starts to get involved. And so that's really important that happen. The roadmap is therefore a guidance for planning, and it can change and be refined over time, and I'm sure it will be refined over time. And we did present the final roadmap at Lillestrøm, and since then we've started to encourage more community engagement, participation in this process. And so we had 2 industry forums to suit the 2 different time zones across the globe, and out of that, ta-da, and you can't read that, I'm sorry. I hadn't quite realised how small the screen would be. Even if you're in the front row, I don't think you can read it. But you can see there, I'm going to jump up again, this will be annoying. You can see there that we've had 7 of those activities that were highlighted and which received a fair bit of interest from people saying we're interested in getting involved in that. And there was a lead person for most of them. And these are now ready to roll because we have actually people who are willing to participate and guide those processes. So that's where we're up to. And this is really a call to you and any of your colleagues who want to take on board any of these activities, or in fact, if you come up with another activity which is close to your heart and you want to push and we can build a team around you, then that's also great. That's good, because we need to move forward. So the things, I can just read them here. Excuse me, colleagues. The first one's actually been running for a while, very powerfully led by Jim. So it's, in fact, it is complete pretty much. So I'll be talking about that a bit later today. Then there's the second one was the IFC, that's the Asset Operations Handover project. And I'll be talking more about that later. I'll explain it in our next session. IFC for Infrastructure User Guide. So Alexa has volunteered to initiate a process to develop a guide to IFC for infrastructure, which is much needed. And in fact, that work has already begun. Marc, sitting in the front row, we'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, is leading a working group looking at IFC and geospatial for infrastructure. I'm told, Marc, that we don't talk about GIS anymore. We use the term geospatial. Anyway, BSDD for infrastructure, so Marek is already leading the work on that, and he'll be talking to us a bit later. And then there's the role of in delivering digital twins. That's an activity which is already live within the BSI community, so we need to contribute to that. Application of IDS for infrastructure. We need to get our head around how we can use that technology, that service, and carbon emissions, which is with Nick. Nick, you're on our list, but no one's leading it yet, but we'll work on that. So that's where we're up to. Last slide for my little session here. Thank you. These are the ones that have, some people have expressed interest in them, but they haven't actually kicked off as yet. So they don't have a number, a working group number, but we will drive them as soon as you possibly can. So that's really where we're up to. I share that with you because I want you to understand that the work toward developing the roadmap is now finished, which means that the work is now ready to start. And unless we all pull together and participate in these different working groups and drive the process forward, then the infrastructure domain will kind of quietly fade away. And none of us want that to happen. So please think about how you can contribute and get and participate in some of this work. And I think that's all from me. So these are actually stop. Oh, you can fly through them. These are the slides I'll be talking to later. So it's all been merged into one super PowerPoint. So none of you have to come back at 3:30 to hear the rest of the story. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Well,
yeah, Jim, just here.
Thank you. Just a quick confirmation. The second work group that is referring to the right, is it completed already, or is it still undergoing?
No, none of the, one of the working groups that is listed there has pretty much completed, because we started that work some time ago, and we've just released the final report, so that the first item has been done. But I don't want to talk about it now because we've got other things to talk about. It will come up again at 3:30 this afternoon, and I'll explain exactly what has come out of that. The others are all works in progress. Or they just started. Yep.
Can we still join them?
Absolutely. So what's your name again?
We're from Portugal.
Yes, be careful what you say, because we'll grab your name, we'll grab your email address, we'll grab your home address, we'll grab your phone number, and you'll be locked in for life. I'm joking. There's my contact details if you really want to make a phone call to Australia. Actually, in Australia now we get all this junk phone numbers, phone calls, and they're always scammed, and so it's hard to get me on my phone number now, unless my phone recognised you. Anyway, that's a good story. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Jim? As Jim was saying, if you want to join any of the working groups, they're all open for participation. So please reach out to Tina or Jen or myself, and we'll add you to the working groups. We have a number of working groups who still need teams and indeed leaders. So,
and I'm quite serious. There's no reason why, if you think there's another idea there that you want to really promote, and you get a team around you, then you know, look at it forcing them out.
Thank you, Jim. Tina, very good presentation. I think you've done a tremendous job with the roadmap. In the past, we've always run projects with stakeholders and sponsors and whatever. How do you see the structure with these working groups?
That's a very good point. The working groups, some of them will just result in a report, a document of some kind. So the one I've just completed is really just a report, and it will feed into a formal project which has been run, we hope, in the middle of this year in conjunction with the building group. So I'll talk more about that later. But that's probably a good example. Some of these working groups may well lead to formal projects. We need funding, we need stakeholders and participation, and so the working group will do the background work. They'll prepare a project proposal, project plan. Actually, I think they're called activity proposals in BSI parlance, and then can be about this project. So it's part of that process. But not everything we do has to be a funded project with stakeholders. It can be just a report or a white paper or a history commission.
And I want to add that these working groups are kind of working as a pro bono, so there is no kind of funded collective for the working groups in the beginning. So like Jim said, they can be in the end to be the kind of the activity proposal for the project that we collect funding, but now we are kind of seeking that what needs to be done under these topics in order to make the next phase possible.
Of course, if anyone wants to pay me retrospectively for my work on the, no, I'm joking. Yeah, so that's all from me for the moment, I think.
Okay, thanks, Jim. I'm going to invite Mark to come up and join me at the front. Thank you. We're going to just switch over from the slides to Mark's on-screen demo, I think. I'll pass you this microphone.
Very good.
While we do that switch.
Thank you very much. Great to see an absolutely full room here on a topic that maybe just a couple of years ago I don't think would have drawn such an audience. I think it's a testament to the importance of infrastructure in the world of building smart. And certainly the topic of GIS and BIM, I think, is somewhat mirrored by that. Well, yeah, you know, I have a hard time not saying GIS, but just saying geospatial. I guess it's kind of the first name of GIS, geospatial information systems.
I was corrected not using GIS.
You're corrected by Plume. Let's see, I'm going to open up a couple of things here. And as was mentioned by Jim, I'm leading the working group within the infrastructure domain that is related to IFC and geospatial. I'm also working with the buildingSMART International Working Group that is liaisoning with the Open Geospatial Consortium to align standards, to define use cases, to create synergy between these two rather large and well-established organizations who historically have focused on different elements of infrastructure and technology. So I wear a couple of hats And I have a feeling that this next bit of content that I'll be presenting will come across as perhaps wearing both of those hats. I see Jag in the room here. So, this topic of geospatial information systems, GIS, and BIM and open BIM is certainly one of growing importance and interest. For a little bit of background, my role at Esri, who's longtime geospatial GIS technology services product industry leader, is to be the spokesperson for the importance of geospatial in the AEC industry. 4 years ago, we didn't have a sector at the company that focused on the firms who were doing the consulting, the design, the planning, the engineering, and construction. We worked traditionally, historically, really just with the owners and operators of infrastructure who would put GIS into place. In those short 4 years, our group within the company has grown to be one of the fastest growing, one of the largest contributors to revenue, one of the most, I think, interesting groups within the company. I don't want to take credit or have Esri take credit necessarily for pushing the ball forward for GIS in AEC. I think it has been a long time coming. The recognition of the importance of location data, context, all the many layers that help us make our decisions in the process of building infrastructure that GIS kind of uniquely delivers compared to CAD and BIM and project schedules and cost estimating. GIS is quite unique. So there is a growing importance in the infrastructure domain taking on geospatial and open BIM as part of that roadmap thread is quite logical, and perhaps it's not just an alignment of many things coming together. As I mentioned, I wear a couple of hats within buildingSMART as it relates to geospatial. So there is the buildingSMART International Open Geospatial Consortium working group led by JAG, a team of about 10 or so of us, putting together a very significant roadmap that has been vetted by buildingSMART, has been vetted by OGC participants up to the very top, has been presented at Lillestrøm back in September, and immediately after that, I think it might have been Singapore at the OGC event. And that roadmap, it looks visually quite different than the roadmap that Jim showed, but it is following a similar approach. In fact, I think I've got a screenshot of it here. And I know that these things will not necessarily come across for everyone to see very easily. Close that. But essentially, we are still in year one. We are soliciting, vetting, validating use cases that relate to the interchange between geospatial information and building infrastructure, open BIM content. We have a multi-year roadmap, but the way it's structured, the way it's been developed, and the way it's been agreed upon by the participants in this BSI OGC working group is to make incremental updates, to make incremental progress, to actually have demonstrations today that we've shown in a number of situations, showing these integrations taking place across various workflows. So it is a multi-year plan to eventually get to the point where these two organizations have developed standards, have exchanged requirements, have adapted each other's or our own roadmaps and capabilities to work together better. But there's already progress here in this very earliest year. Let's see, as I mentioned, the work group that was brought out on by Jim a few moments ago, the infrastructure domain taking on geospatial and open BIM. I'm leading a group of, I think there's about 6 or 7 of us who've been participating for the last almost 2 months now, getting together twice a week. And like the other work groups, we had a charter to either develop a user guide or to write a white paper. But in this case, because there's already so much momentum around the OGC BSI efforts around geospatial and BIM, instead the group of us, 6 or 7 of us, through our first couple of meetings, realized it made more sense to put wind into the sails of the buildingSMART initiative than simply write another white paper or develop another user guide or do anything that might just be yet another digital artifact. So instead, our charter as a small group of half a dozen has been to accelerate and amplify and be a catalyst to the effort that Jag, as I mentioned, myself, Eric Poirier, who might be in the room here, and several others are working on. And in simply the third meeting we had, it was actually quite an eye-opener. I asked the participants on this group, who I think I list them later on, whether they had use cases that could be sort of a shot in the arm, could be used to help the effort that buildingSMART in general is working on in this intersection of geospatial and open BIM. And it was wonderful to see one of the particular participants, a woman in Chesmeyer, who is a consultant to departments of transportation in the US, shared with me a 7-page document full of use cases, very well vetted and proper structure of use cases, talking about the various ways in which GIS might be an underpinning to BIM or BIM might be an underpinning to GIS, solving specific particular problems in the world of, in this case, DOT infrastructure. Another participant in this small working group, a consultant from the Czech Republic, working on departments of transportation and rail projects, has a similar document that he's in the process of translating these user stories and use cases. So we're coming into this with a group who have already put significant amount of time in defining and understanding what the user scenarios are, what the use cases are, so that we can again amplify the efforts that are already taking place between buildingSMART and the OGC. Other elements of why this is important, why GIS and BIM are important. I'd say that the infrastructure domain is ahead of the other domains, not to pat ourselves on the back or be braggadocious, but we have taken on the topic of geospatial and BIM. It makes sense given the domains, subdomains within infrastructure ahead of, let's say, airports or rail or the new water domain that we'll hear about soon, or vertical construction buildings or the construction domain or electrical. And I put out a call, if any of you are involved in those other domains, either on the steering committees or you're a member or participant in those domains helping to push the efforts forward, it'll be very important for you to also sharpen your focus on this intersection. The importance of location information as it pertains to all types of buildings, horizontal construction, vertical construction, whether it's plan, design, build, or operating of those assets, the importance of GIS data, spatial analytics, context, aerial imagery, subsurface data for all of the domains is critical. So although we might be a little bit ahead because it is on our roadmap and we've gathered the right resources, it is critical for all the domains to take on this topic. And I know I'm not the only one in the room who believes that. And then, again, just the growing importance of this topic. Certainly, buildingSMART and OGC working together is a demonstration of the importance of these two organizations. I'm also involved with the Digital Twin Consortium, who've taken on the topic of the importance of location in the concept of digital twins. National Institute of Building Sciences. We're touching on GIS as it pertains to our research in the world of BIM and digital twins and how they relate to each other and the importance, again, of location data. So just through my lens and focus on US-based organizations, the ideas of geospatial data, spatial analytics, contextual information, improving the world of architecture, engineering, construction, the built world, is being taken on by organizations and associations of many types. So it's a topic that is growing in interest and importance, and again, the infrastructure domain taking it on as a thread through the roadmap makes perfect sense. I do want to touch on a session that we'll be doing on Thursday. Myself and Jag and Eric, employee leads the board of buildingSMART Canada, Jag, Senior Vice President, WSP, the three of us, we will be doing a session specifically on workflows, use cases related to GIS and BIM, places where GIS data feeds the BIM environment, improving the decision-making and leading to better projects. Places where BIM information feeds a GIS environment, providing more details in an environment typically is context-rich, but isn't necessarily, GIS isn't always known for that level of detail that BIM delivers. And then a handful of use cases where the two go back and forth, where BIM exists within GIS and then GIS goes back to BIM, and perhaps the merger of the two is hard to see where the line is. So we're going to be diving into that topic for 90 minutes, we'll be using Menti as well as some voting cards that I'm just kind of hinting at here as a means for getting the audience to weigh in on several use cases and have a very interactive conversation. So whereas right here, we're kind of talking to you in this session, Thursday morning, 9 to 10:30, we really want to be an engaging back and forth conversation. So just a little bit more about why BIM and GIS. Individually, they enable the built world, the world of infrastructure projects. They enable better delivery. BIM is accelerating in adoption. It is being better understood. The idea that BIM is not just a piece of software, isn't just a piece of data, but is truly a process that improves the built world is just continuing to be well understood across all domains of the built world. GIS, providing location awareness, providing context, being an aggregator of data of many types, and leveraging the fact that everything gets planned, designed, built, and operated somewhere, and geospatial technologies, software, and data are all about that and where. It makes sense for them to be brought together. I heard something yesterday that was actually quite interesting. BIM is like a walkie-talkie. It's a direct way of communicating between, in many cases, the very few who have the right tools, who happen to be dialed into the right frequency, who have a level of expertise and really need to be connected to BIM information. Whereas GIS is like a radio. It's broadcasting to a wider distribution. Anyone can understand it. You just got to dial in. We all know how to read maps. We all just almost instinctually can understand how to glean information from a map as opposed to a set of plans that BIM might be generating, or a coordination plan that comes out of BIM. So this analogy, I'm floating it past you for the first time. I heard it yesterday and it kind of resonated with me. There's plenty of times when BIM or GIS each do not need the other, but through my now 4 years at Esri, being very much immersed in both worlds, the couple of months with this working group that I've mentioned, validating a lot of things that I've thrown their way, working with the infrastructure domain now for almost a year, I guess. It's very clear these topics of GIS and BIM, they come together, they amplify the value of each other. And if you want to be included in this BIM and GIS excitement that we are driving here in the infrastructure domain, I've got a QR code and a URL that will take you to a real simple form to provide your name, your basic contact information, and either add you to the working group, outreach to pull you into the steering committee's efforts, get some feedback on our roadmap, and just be part of this conversation that is growing in interest and importance. And again, that event on Thursday, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, I'm losing track of time. Please join us, because it'll be a much more in-depth 90 minutes, like I said, really exploring the use cases, and it will help us push this ball forward. Questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Yep.
Questions for Mark on BIM and GIS? Open spatial? Geospatial? Open BIM?
I just want to make a quick comment. This issue, of course, came up very strongly in the working group looking at asset operations handover. I'll be talking about this afternoon. So a lot of, that's a major use case, obviously.
Yes, certainly. Yeah, the idea of assets.
Yeah, I won't say more than that. That's fine.
Yeah, and I'm going to just touch on that as well. Within my world at Esri, I focus, like I said, on the consultants, on the architecture, engineering, and construction companies who get paid to plan, design, and build the assets. Almost the entire rest of the company is dealing with assets. I mean, they are the owner-operators of the built world, who have that longer-term total cost of operation, decades-long view of infrastructure, as opposed to the firms who are thinking more about days, weeks, months, maybe a years-long project. So the intersection between asset management, asset information management, which is under the realm of GIS often, and BIM makes perfect sense for those two to come together.
And one more thing, if I may. During the work we were doing for the development of IFC 4.3, at that stage I was co-chair of a BIM GIS working group, and we had a lot of collaboration with the geospatial community in the development of particularly geotechnics and the spatial alignments and all of that. But the alignment work was done in collaboration with OGC, so that we had exactly the same conceptual model for that. So there's a long history of engagement with this domain with OGC.
Yeah, I often get into slight arguments with other folks at Esri and even with some customers of the blurred line between BIM and geospatial. I have dozens of examples, and we're showing them down our booth. I take them on the road. I do webinars where you'll see these environments comprised of layers of information that are historically perceived as GIS, combined with information that historically you say is BIM in one dashboard, solving workflows across the entire project lifecycle. So the importance of them coming together, and again, the fact that the infrastructure domain is taking it on makes a lot of sense, because geospatial tends to be thought of as a technology for horizontal construction. But I think that in the very near future, we should see the building domain, the electrical domain, the water domain, the airports domain, all of the domains take on this topic and feed the working group that I'm leading in the infrastructure domain, and certainly the effort that is across buildingSMART. We need input from all the domains.
We've got a question online, Mark.
Yes.
So Alexa Mitchell, also a member of the Infrastructure Domain Steering Committee. Hi, Alexa.
Hi, Alexa.
She says, GIS in transportation is used as a 2D system. Is Esri LRS going to support 3D geometry? Is the GeoBIM product support part of the Open BIM standards? I have so many questions for Mark. But maybe it's better for me to ask them in the session tomorrow.
Hello, Alexa. So yeah, is GIS more than 2D? Does it support 3D? It certainly does. In the case of Esri, in the case of Cesium, in the case of the other vendors who are providing GIS capabilities. Yeah, in the session tomorrow, actually the session in the middle of the day here, Esri as a sponsor, we have a small bit of time to present. That's one of my main points. The perception of geospatial technologies as a somewhat flat, static map, because that's the GIS that you used when you were in engineering school many years ago, has evolved significantly to be fully supportive of 3D. In the case of Esri and our competitor, I think in almost all cases, we are bringing in IFC models and converting those objects into, to use a GIS term, features, and maintaining the geometric fidelity as well as the properties that were put into those objects in the BIM authoring tools. And then the specific question whether our GeoBIM product, which bridges GIS and BIM, brings together currently the Autodesk Construction Cloud with the ArcGIS Online environment. It brings in proprietary data as well as importing IFC all the way up to 4.3. And we have developers back in Redlands who are working on tunnels, the geotechnical extensions to IFC, so that we'll be right up there with 4.4 when it's ready.
Great. Thanks, Mark. I think in the interest of time, we'll bring that session to an end because you've got more, you'll be telling us more tomorrow. So, thanks very much. I'd like to invite Haijiang Li from Cardiff University to come and join us. We're going to do a little changeover in terms of get to Haijiang's slides. Do you want to introduce the session, Haijiang, while I take the slides?
No problem. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Steve. Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And I think I remember back. So time flies. I think I stayed in this room for almost 10 years now. But COVID takes about 3 to 4 years. It's not fair. And after COVID, we're all coming back, and then to do this, resuming this port and harbor project, stage 2. Okay, so here's the team. and get the history about the team. And from stage 1, and we're progressing to stage 2. It takes a long time actually for us to sort out the stage 2. And again, here we are. Okay, so maybe we can go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, so that's little recap and introduction for this how we get to today for the Hamper 2. And then we introduce the Port Hamper phase 2 work plan, because we already finished stage 1. For stage 2, we finished activity proposal to get approved. Now we're working on the project planning, and we're going to explain those details here. And the user cases. There is quite a lot of focus now to shifting from the standard development towards to actual user cases that use in real projects. Hence, we developed quite a lot of user cases today to explain this further to the community. And of course, the last thing is for call for more partners. Yeah, great. For the next one. Yeah, a bit history. So because it's after a long time that we come back again, so I think it's necessary for us to refresh our memory. So how we get to this far, and starting from 2017. That's for stage 1. And then we go to the different various summits, Rome, start reading from Rome, and then we come back today. Okay, so John, I'm going to put another one. Yeah, so that's stage 2. And it's a very important event in Rome for this project, because we actually managed to put everyone, all the team, back online in Rome, that beautiful place. And then we get partners from the existing partners. We still have Roy Haskins on board. We have Michelle on board, and Nick Nisbet, existing partners. And we are now calling more partners as well. Okay, please, thank you. So there is need for phase 2, because if you're thinking back for phase 1, we were developing the scope, and I think that maybe after a couple minutes, Dan can come here to review the use cases and scopes where we ended in phase 1. But at that time, we focused more on the design stage, but we need to move forward to cover construction stage and also operation stage. That's the reason why now we put many user cases that focusing on operation and construction stage. Start from here. Okay, thank you. Here the new partners already explained that there are some of the new partners, potential partners, that we would like to explain at the very end of these slides, including Lander, including X-Links, including FinTech. I have been contacting with them. There's potential interest for them to become part of the team. Okay, thank you. Yes, the focus. We are going to shift in our focus, starting from design. We did lots of work focusing on design use cases within the limited scope, but now we move forward to move to the construction stage and also operation stage. And also we want to take this opportunity forward to align with our working group here. I think I noticed there's quite a lot of interest, mutual interest can be shared between this project and our working groups. Okay, John? Or maybe you need to push all of them through to the end here. So that is a little work plan. We have 5 or 6 work package already designed that will be included in our project planning. So we have stage 1, work package 1. Is about, maybe I can step here. Let me see. Yeah, so we have work package 1, always starting with the requirement analysis, and also doing this MEP requirement analysis. I will move forward towards the taxonomy development, and topic 3 is going to talk about the modeling extensions, and we are going to use this case as technically focused projects. So we're going to try MEP, IGS, BSDB, linking that with open BIM framework. So I also noticed in Tina's roadmap, I think we talk about lots of ideas and we so we are trying to use this project as test bed to provide those ideas development by using those real case user cases. Thank you, Jim. Thank you, John. Yeah, so management, and as we explained, those projects is with infrastructure domain. So we're going to under this domain. So perhaps there's 2 more projects are currently ongoing. Golden Harbor 2 is one of those. Really, we perhaps can develop this project further as a platform to engage with more audience and more working groups to use this as a real project. Because as you can see, the following user cases will introduce real project context. We are going to trial this IFC 4.3. It's different to 10 years ago. We do not have this 4.3 published. But now this is published, accepted by industry, so they are going to do the real-time, real project testing. Thank you, John. Yeah, scope review. Maybe this time then I'm able to say something about the scope. Yeah, we have our partner, and from Roy Haskell, because we are going to extend the scope from the phase 1.
Thanks, Haijiang. Phase 1 delivered quite a good piece of work around requirements analysis, which identified a wide number of use cases, not all of which made it into the 4.3 schema extension. So there's quite a piece of work around reviewing those use cases that are identified, seeing which remain relevant, particularly identifying overlaps with other ongoing working groups, AOH in particular, asset handover. As Haijiang mentioned, the first package of work was quite focused on the design phase. Asset operation handover, as it suggests, is looking at operations. So there's obviously some overlap there that we need to be mindful of. But also there's a handover to construction, which is difficult sometimes in marine environment. So it's about how we facilitate that data exchange and information exchange as well. So yeah, essentially we're going to review all the existing use cases, identify commonalities with other areas of work that are ongoing, and look to develop those, fill any gaps in property sets, that kind of thing. And also, as Haijiang mentioned, one of the difficulties in the first package of work was that we couldn't really author, or could easily author 4.3 files to test some of these workflows. So now we have the ability to do that. I think that will help identify other gaps.
Okay, so now we move forward to the technical content. So there are 4 types of work that we're going to conduct in our stage 2. So we are going to continue first, to continue to develop this deeper granularity of those piece sets, concepts, and scope. Secondly, we're going to focus on industry implementation. From the following user cases you can see, we're also going to focus on construction and operation stage. And we're also going to fully deploy the open BIM flow. All of these key terms that we're going to try. And also we're going to link this with CCCC accelerator program. So currently we are working with buildingSMART working group. So BSDD, IDS, BCF, digital products, and also other new techniques like digital twins, IoTs, blockchains, so we can develop some use cases to try. Thank you. Yeah, so the deeper granularity, as you can see, we move from size on complex definition. But in stage 1, it wouldn't go deep enough that would enable the end user to start to use the standard we developed. It's not detailed enough. So we're now going to move down to the following levels to include the facilities. As you can see, all these different detailed components, specifications, assembly elements, parts that we're going to define it to conclude the full scope of IFC standards, to extend it, implement it into BSCD. So the rail projects can actually use the API to access all those property sets, meanings, defining components into the construction, design, and operation software. Thank you. So, yeah, also going to cover the very last part, assembly, elements, and part. That's the finest granularity for buildingSMART. Please, sorry, turn it down.
Do you want to take that, Haijiang? Do you want to take that call?
No, sorry.
No.
Sorry. Thank you so much.
Do carry on.
Yes, please move forward to next slide, John.
Yeah.
Yes, also the PCL extensions, and as I said, there is not enough detail that explained. So we have a good experience accumulated in the long-lasting phase 1. We have so much experience that we can leverage it. Now we can focus on this PSET expansion. Okay, John. And more practical use cases that will be focused on construction and operation, and we are going to focus on full open BIM implementation. Thank you. So the first one is Monaco's use cases extension back from Michelle. Are you able to say something about that? Thank you, Michelle. And with the last one, we might have the flexibility to extend it.
Yes, so this one project is actually under construction right now in Monaco. So this is a residential extension over sea. It's a huge embankment that's been created. With construction, Bouygues Public is the main contractor there. And the idea was to showcase how BIM could be used in the context of the construction itself, and everything that relates as well to the supply chain, minimizing the environment consequences and the impact on environment, both on the sea life as well as on the citizens' daily life as well. This is something that was initiated like almost 7 years ago. So at the time we had not followed through as an open format to exchange data, so that was a bit complicated. But this is very much of a interesting case because of its size, number one, and the fact that at the end this residential extension will probably lead to, if you are interested, one of the most expensive residential area in the world. I think that the prices right now are about to be set around 50,000 to 80,000 euros a square meter. And I believe that all the villas, the single villas, there are 12 villas there next to the main buildings are already sold out. But that's a very interesting case, I think, where open BIM can apply in the context of a maritime project. In that particular case, this is a large embankment.
Thank you, thank you. So we did have a load of new cases, use cases that we can focus on. The first one is offshore coal import jetty for CPHCC. This is use cases come from CCCC. So as you can see, at this last stage, we focus on the design. So this stage, we're talking about go deeper to define those components that can be actually applied in IFC 4.3 context into the real project. And also there's some maintenance user cases that we are able to define now to put into the context of this very specific power plant. This is the first one. We'll move to the next one. So as you can see, for this power plant port, we're going to try the full open BIM workflow. We actually did all the testing last year already. So we're going to conclude this by following completely open BIM flow On top of that, also CCCC just get certified with kite mark of 19650. That is excellent news for them. So we are, as a team, now going to combine the 19650 process, working together with IFC schema, and to come up with open BIM, but yet fully practical-oriented solution that can be used to try for these use cases. All these key terms, IFC schema, commercial software, how commercial software working together with open BIM through this idea specification, or the whole set of the IR documents defined by 19650, EIR, OIR, AIR, AIM, PIM, all sorts of concepts. Yeah, we're trying to digest those together and putting it here. And 4D, 5D, 6D, linking to the modeling, and also, especially for the later stage, we're talking about operation stage. So AR, VR, MR is going to be used to fully explore the potential of open BIM flow. Thank you, John. Yes, and so that is very interesting project. So it's talking about LNG port. 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes. We're getting there. Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. So this LNG port, as it is a very special type of port. So we need to look after the security, health and safety. That aligns well with 19650 Part 5 and Part 6. So we're going to apply the principle to define that as the cases to look after for the operation stage. John, please next. Yeah, this is linking to that as well. So we're going to use the digital AR and MR XR all together to explore the open BIM flow. Next one. Yeah, that is shape block, and that's already created. Now they are in the maintenance stage. They develop a smart early warning system that can be used to monitor the operation of the shape block. As you can see, this is a real project already. Now we're using IFC 4.3 to test it. Okay, John? Yeah. That's it. Last one. Okay. So we are still waiting for more interested partners, because we've been here for almost 10 years. Partners coming in and go. So we are staying still. So hopefully we can get some more interesting parties to get on board, working together with our Royal Heston partners and 83s and all these other partners. Thank you again.
Yep, thank you, Haijiang. Thank you, Dan. Questions for Haijiang? Karen, you have a question?
Yes, very nice, exciting project to the first project. I just have a question that I just need to ask. How does this Ports and Waterways Phase 2 project, is there a connection to the new domain, the maritime domain, or is this different? Is there any?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Karen, for asking. I think take this opportunity to clarify it. We carefully designing the scope. So we trying to maintain this one with infrastructure domain, because we have done the phase 1 here. Okay? We're leveraging all the resources in this domain. So we're going to continue to do this IFC for the half of stage 2. But we together with Stan yesterday, actually we discussed quite intensely about this scoping thing. So we believe that sea farming, immense tunnel, and also some other potential offshore structures into the maritime domain, not in this IFC for the harvest stage 2.
But will you also be stakeholders in the Ports and Waterways?
Yes,
yes,
yeah, definitely. Yes.
Oh, it was a maritime.
Yeah, both actually.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Haijiang or the team on Ports and Waterways Phase 2? No? Okay. Thank you, Haijiang. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you. So we are end of this intra-domain first session, and we are having an intense few days ahead of us, and a lot of things to discuss, like the BIM and geospatial yeah, not GIS, but geospatial workshop, and also the roadmap work that is ahead of us in the future. And like Tim said, there is the roadmap and the working groups based on the roadmap activities. They have just been established, many of these working groups. So I encourage you to collaborate and kind of be part of those working groups in order to be able to have the future projects. Ports and Waterways are now kind of looking forward to enter to maybe from the activity proposal to the actual project phase, but still a lot of input from the community is definitely needed. So if there isn't any further questions.
I think we'll, Andre asked the question while Mark was still presenting. Maybe we'll take that tomorrow in the more detailed presentation, Mark, yeah? Thank you.
Yeah, tomorrow morning session, which is led by Mark. And then I would like to highlight that the next session in this room is the railway domain session, and then they are concentrated to the roadmap work that the railway domain has ahead of them, and they have invited the infra domain to tell more about the work we have done under the infra domain in order to make the create the roadmap for the infra domain. So there will be a short presentation from the infra domain for the railway domain session, which is next in this concrete room actually. And just wanted to highlight one more thing from the roadmap work, that actually this was kind of, we did the review for the previous roadmap. So as an infra domain, we have had the roadmap already since 2018 for the 5 years period, and this new roadmap is covering for the next 5 years. So this was the update for the existing roadmap actually. So now we have had then kind of the roadmap that covers 10 years of the work. So I think that that's a good thing also to highlight it. So thank you all. I think it's the lunch break. Next, somewhere downstairs, I assume.
Yeah, it is. Thanks very much, Tina. Thanks to all of our speakers today, Tina, Jim, Mark, Haijiang, Dan, and others, and Michelle. As Tina said, it's now lunchtime. Lunch is available downstairs. It's nearly 12:30 in sunny Valencia. Hope you enjoy your lunchtime. Please try and get outside and get some fresh air. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. We'll be back in this room in an hour's time, 1:30, with Railway Domain Session 2. And then following that, later this afternoon, Infrastructure Domain Session 2 as well. Thanks very much. See you later. Bye.